Hey, that's pretty keen, isn't it?
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, that's neat.
We just got back from Grandpa getting his hearing aids cleaned out and checked. We got new ones, right?
Yeah. My eardrums are all right. They're clean.
Good. And Grandma? What are you working on?
I'm writing a letter.
Can you see yourself?
Computer. Oh, I wrote it. Not very well. You know, I have to have my eyes cleaned up. Oh, what a terrible picture. Who is that woman?
It's my beautiful Grandma.
Yeah, she eats
What
too
kind
many
of-
cookies, I'll tell you that.
No, it
What
smells
I have
good
some
in
over
here.
there if you want.
I smell
What
it.
kind of camera? Oh, this is a Sony.
Yeah, it's Heather's camera.
That's a good camera.
Yeah, she's had it for several years. It's been handy. Okay, so what are we gonna do today? Are you gonna show me your stuff?
Yeah, here you are. I got it all. What I'm going to do, if you haven't seen that, no, maybe you're not. Well, you're going to waste your battery.
Oh no, you won't
If you want, this is a whole complete set, and that's why it's here. But I think I have one like this, and I'll go in and see it, and I'll start.
You want to start at the first picture?
Wherever you say. Oh, the reason, yeah. I'll start with the reason I did this, because people just they think that the United States has always been like this. It wasn't. When the settlers came over, there wasn't a building here. Not a building.
Right.
Nothing. No streets, roads. And our great-grandparents, because my Pennsylvania Dutch people came over here probably in the late 1600s, and they settled in Pennsylvania and that whole area, and they were farmers, and they had developed that. But they had a tough job. Was my great-grandfather settled in Lorrytown, and the names, you can't look up these names because names change every 10 or 20, 30 years. They're going to be, you will find out if you look in Pennsylvania that these names were entirely different. 200 years ago, they were different. And it's interesting to do this, but I drew this, I made this picture just to tell people that that's what they ran into and what they have to do. Well, they had to build their own cabins. People had dirt floors. And then later on, are you going to take pictures of all these things?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Well, I was gonna go back and get you a book of this.
Oh, I know.
Huh?
I know, but I want to know. I want to hear about it too.
Well, now then they started to build things. This was a lot of sweat and work. Terrible amount of work. There's nothing here. Nothing. No plumbing, no nothing. They had to do everything, which they did. You dig wells and get water, construct places, outhouses finally, and you finally got out of this and rebuilt stuff. Well, that was, and then in core of that, I thought the Declaration of Independence, a sheepskin, like the Declaration, it's important to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We did this despite kings and emperors and dukes and all the rest of them. Then the reason I put this in is this has to do with the atom bomb, but it's not really have to do with the atom bomb. It has to do with an atom bomb that people don't think about.
Like what?
You had a father and a mother. Both of them had fathers and mothers, too. Both of them had fathers and mothers. It just does not increase. Mathematically, it explodes.
Mm-hmm. What are you looking for?
The explosion. See, this is my father, my mother, James' father, James' mother. And this is how it would look. That at the end of 100 years, you get 8 grandparents. At the end of 200 years, you get 64. At the end of 300 years, you got 512. And at the end of...
Did you know your great-grandfather?
No. What you find out about him, you have to dig.
Did you knew your grandfather, though?
I knew Grandpa, Dad.
What was he like?
He was a fine man. Grandpa John Taylor. He was given an agency when the D.L.W. Railroad, when the Lehigh Valley Railroad went through, where he helped lay the tracks on the...
So he worked for the railroad? Your grandfather and father, right?
Worked for the railroad first. Then after that, he was given an agency.
What does that mean?
Well, all the freight went through them. He would build up or change. He's going to get a cut of his business. So he had an agency first in the tannery in Pennsylvania, and then when I suppose Dad came down and became an engineer and decided to live in Roselle, Grandpa probably transferred to Bond Broad, and he had an agency to cover all the traffic coming in and out of.
Now, was your grandmother, was she alive too? Did you know her?
No, my grandmother, this is the winner. Grandma died at childbirth with the third child. So Grandpa probably threw his arms up and he needed help. So he went back to the family farm because my great-grandfather had 8 boys and 2 girls. So they just moved over and made room for Grandpa. 2 sons. Dad was Lloyd Kenneth Taylor, and my uncle was Malcolm Taylor, and they were raised as their children in, I would call it Town. This is what it's
Pennsylvania?
in Pennsylvania. And so Dad never knew his mother, really. And I don't know how much he knew of his mother's family, but I observed that when I was with my father, and he went into Pennsylvania, he was home. He exuded it. He knew the people, he understood the language and everything, and he liked it. He was home. I put this because I said at the end of 300 years, you'll have 512 directly. And when you get at the end of 1,000, that's 1,000 years, it's you got 1 billion. So after that, It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous to consider anything beyond 100 or 200 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can see it get out of hand.
So I spell that out in words. Oh, now we came to this one here. They used to have, this is the type of wagons we had in Roselle when I grew up. I helped.
Let's see.
I'm going to give you one of these books to go with.
Okay. So what do those mean to you?
Well, this is Maine's here. We took a railroad into the big city, which is New York City.
When you were a
New
kid?
York City's my city. I consider it my city. I grew up in that. I'm a New Yorker, a real one. I know all parts of the Battery and the Chinatown, and Midtown and Uptown. And it used to be a wonderful city, and I loved it. Now,
Were you there as a kid?
well, I never got in as a kid because Dad took us in. I think the earliest, Mom probably took us in. Dad, being a railroader, would have a pass, a railroad engineer. He'd have a pass if he knew you were any place we wanted. And we could have passed on other railroads too, wherever we wanted to go. So we would travel by, we went from Roselle to Elizabeth, we'd probably take a trolley car.
Well, what's that one? The next one?
Well, wait a minute.
Mumbly.
No, look at the trolley car.
Well, we'll get to the trolley car.
All right, we took a trolley car. But this is before the days of the buses.
Mm-hmm.
We're in really the railroad age here. It was before the days of the railroads and dirt roads and horse-drawn wagons. They'd call it carting. That's a wagon. And this is, now the main line to get into New York City would be the Central Railroad of New Jersey. We'd go to Elizabethport, cross over to the Bayonnes, and go up through the Bayonnes to Communipaw, which is in Jersey City. Then you take a ferry across to New York City. Are you taking this?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that would really explain to that. That New York City used to be a city of cities. A city of cities, Lower Manhattan, south of John Street, in that was an Armenian section. Get a gorgeous Armenian pastry. Whereas the east side was really going into kosher, Jewish garment makers. Chinatown, well, that's where the Chinese would concentrate. And they came over here and made Chinatown, was Chinatown, Chinese. The Japanese really were out in the west. They weren't really in the east. The French, and the Germans, they just spread among themselves throughout the Middle Atlantic states. Jane's folks are really English. Mine are Scotch-Irish. My mother's side was Welsh.
You know the story about how your ancestors came over from, I guess, Scotland and Ireland?
Well, they probably came out of Belfast and came over on sailing ships at that time. And they probably came in through New York City and Philadelphia. The Pennsylvania Dutch came in through Philadelphia. The Scotch-Irish might have come in through Philadelphia too. Those are the main immigration points. The Welsh, they probably came in through New York City. Scotch, well, my father's Scotch-Irish, mother is Welsh.
All right. Good. What else do we got?
Well, now, the wells.
What's this?
That's a well. Then the soapstone tubs down the cellar. We would have soapstone.
I don't know what that is.
Soapstone is made out of about that thick. They're tubs. One next to two tubs built into as one. But they're made out of soapstone, not slate.
Okay.
They would be in the cellar. We had, next to that, when we got a washing machine, this was wood. And it had a handle on it. You grab it around and to the left and to the right. Mm-hmm. This is the way you washed your clothes. And from that, from here, before you did that, if it's white clothes, you usually boiled them. So we had a gas burner. This is what you want here.
Mm-hmm.
They had a gas burner, a 2-burner gas stove. Now, other houses are like ours. We had a new house. This is really a 4-bedroom house with a front porch,
mm-hmm.
And a side porch coming in, and a back porch. And it was a nice house.
Was it in a neighborhood, or did it have a lot of acreage? Was it on a farm? Or?
No, we had farmland in back of us and they used to put cows out there. I'd go out and take a container that I'd put cow flops into, and I'd dump them into like a big wooden tub.
Did you ever tip one?
What?
Did you ever tip over a cow?
The country I grew up in is probably similar to Georgia that you grew up in, here in Cobb County, because you remember when there were all farms around here,
mm-hmm.
and now you see how it's changed.
Right.
Well, we had farms too, and it changed into a suburban town.
But you like New York City though, so did you not like the farms?
Well, we were near New York City that a lot of people could live out in the suburbs.
Oh, okay.
Suburban areas. There are sub-urban areas. It's urban areas, but it's suburban. And they could take a train into New York City, which is fine. They could take a train into Elizabeth, or you change to Elizabethport and take another line that would take you into Newark. Newark was a beautiful town before it was invaded by the blacks, I guess. When the colored folks found Newark, they just changed whole areas of Newark. And consequently, the town changed too, because when you had people would gather together in like people, Jewish people, kosher people would gather together, the same as anybody else. They would gather together, the Irish would gather together in their conclave, the Scotch-Irish would live here, The Catholics would be over here. They were Scotch Irish. They weren't the type of Scotch Irish you probably like. They were Orangemen, Protestants. They would fight at the drop of a hat. A Catholic, who's also Irish. Now, they did not fight at the back, but I noticed that the Irish have been fighting with guns and firearm for 50 or 60 years since they've been freed as Ireland. One section here, and that should not be. But I'm getting I got on that. That was a copper tub. That's a washboard that we use washboard for scrubbing. Now, I guess that cleans up some of that.
Okay.
Now this one,
Mumbly peg.
we would have knickers. We didn't have old pants.
What's mumbly peg?
Mumbly peg is a jackknife, open blade, and you try to toss it this way or flip it, do various ways to make sure it's stuck in the ground. That's where the boys would play this. I had got a horseshoe here from the horses, but actually what you use the horseshoes for is pitching, like you call them nowadays, pitching cards.
Grandma, what's going on over there?
And there's something that Steve sent
Oh,
regarding the questions they're asking, and if you answer certain answers, you're okay, but if you're not, you're demented.
oh.
What?
So are you okay, or are you demented?
So far, I'm demented.
Well, we already knew that.
I didn't understand what you said.
It's a funny email.
Oh, this picture in here, maybe this could be put in. I always liked we would have canoes on Estling's Lake.
Oh, which lake?
Estling, Estling.
Is that a place you used to go for vacation, or?
Yeah, my aunt had a place up there. They lived in the Oranges, in East Orange. It used to be, at first they lived in Newark, and then their daughter Roberta, they were lived in a row house on the first floor. In other words, there was another apartment over the top of them.
And you went there during the summers?
This is in Newark. Well, when they finally only had one child, a daughter, so you think and act differently with children. And they thought, well, look, she's got to get out of here. We've got to give her a better chance to meet other people. So they moved to East Orange. And they had a nice house, a 6-room house in East Orange. It was a good house. And they thought it was a good idea probably to get a place in the summertime like friends of theirs did at Estling's Lake. So they bought a cottage at Estling's Lake. Well, you could rent cottages. We stayed at their cottage, and then after that we would rent a cottage for a month about, in front of them or over the right of them. And Estling's Lake was really a land. You want to hear all that? Estling's Lake is northern Jersey woodlands that had been timbered off by the timber companies. And then the railroads came along and they were developing. Deal and Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western is Deal and W. Put a line in along this side. Well, that could form a dam, and it did form a dam, and it made Estling's Lake. Estling's Lake is only about, in the deepest, it's only maybe 15 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
It's a mile wide, and probably a mile long. That's the idea of it.
So is that you in the boat fishing?
Well, that's the way I always liked when friends of ours that we would have canoes. I know that he would sit on one end of the boat and the canoe would come up. And I liked the idea, so I
Drew
did a
it.
sketch out of my mind. This one has to do, these are seesaws. Back in the olden days, you made your own fun. We did not have radios and we did not have TVs. In fact, electricity really came out of Roselle. The first place that was wired for electricity was probably the first church in the country was the Presbyterian Church in Roselle. And the first electricity they had came into with Bachman factories. This is the coal business, that's where it was. And you did your own thing. People didn't have radios. Telephones only came in, really, in the beginning when I was a kid.
Do you remember that when you guys first got?
When we first had, we had a party line. We had it, and we connected to two other people on the same block too, on the same party line, 1331R. And this is the way life was. And it's a different world we live in, because we made our own fun, so consequently we would get this and we would make a seesaw.
Well, we had those when I was growing up too.
Yeah, but they're manufactured.
Right.
These weren't manufactured, these were us manufactured. And we would skipping ropes naturally. This is a coffee grinder, because our coffee beans would come as beans, and they were baked already, but they were, in other words, cooked, get dry, baked, and we would have coffee. Everybody would have coffee grinders. You open up the top and pour it in, and you crank it, and you get your first ground coffee out. So, to make coffee. So I thought that would be it. Well, this is Essling's Lake. Dad went up to Essling's. This is our dock. We would have a boat parked here, maybe a boat over here. But this is in the cove, on the hillside, in the trees. These are all, these are right, the third growth of trees. They were hardwoods, really. Maples, oaks, chestnuts. Things that we did not have any. We would have hickory nuts. They're hardwoods.
What's this?
Well, there's an attitude in life is, I'm going to do it, I will do it, and then the follow through that we did. That if you're going to do something, you are going to do it. You and your wife are, I'll give you a life. I'm not meaning to again.
No.
You were asking me the
Yes,
difference.
tell me.
That I thought it would be a good idea that the parents would, they get an idea, we do it. We will do it. We did do it. Like this in here, there's a pathway going up to the camp. And the pathway is my dad's idea of a vacation. He was brought up like this. He bought railroad ties out of his own pocket when he got them. He put in and laid the railroad ties, maybe 100 or 150 feet of this stuff. Maybe it's 200. And you would put your crossboards over. In other words, he rebuilt that walk for Uncle Bert and Aunt Mary. Well, Uncle Bert was my uncle, and Aunt Mary's my aunt. And we would stare. What's
that?
Well, this I thought parents there should be a pedestal for fathers and mothers. Because the father is the guy that's working and bringing in the cash usually. Mom is having kids. I thought some of their families were too big. My great-grandfather had 8 boys and 2 girls. I knew all the boys because their dad was sent back to the farm after Grandpa lost his wife during childhood. And therefore I look upon all of them as uncle. My aunt, sadly enough, I don't know. And one of them finally did write to me. This is after Dad was killed. I was in such a state of shock.
How old were you?
I was probably 21 when he was killed. But it was a shock to me to lose him in the prime away. That's what I thought there should be a monument to fathers and mothers. There are the people that brought us up. Because I thank my father for what? I thank him for providing me with the home he has provided me. Letting me go through grade school and high school, and letting me have the same break as other guys could have. I went to work in New York City, and we were taught to save our money. You saved it, you put it away, you did not spend it, you put it in the bank. We got interest from the banks. Now the banks got so smart that they decided not to pay interest about 2 years ago. So the first time in my life, I'm in with a bunch of chiseled kikes, bankers.
Right now?
Now! Wall Street, we call it Wall Street. Wall Street crooks. The most slickest crooks in the world. I say that I'm not telling this to other neighbors or anything. I don't speak like this. I'm speaking to you as a grandfather to a grandson. They are sharp. And Greenspan, I think it is, figuring out why. I've got 5% of my money all my life up to 2 years ago when this upstart banking and all the bankings they said, look, we can use that money ourselves. So their stock went up. In the meanwhile, you're paying for it. You give laws to the bankers? Bullshit. They're crooks. They don't mean to be. This is legal. It's all right. You're recording everything I'm saying to you? Well, this is the type of house we lived in Westfield. I got rid of our house.
Did you guys build that?
No.
No.
I got a good buy on it. A good buy on it was worth 50.
No, when you bought it, did you have kids?
$18,000. I had 4 kids.
Did you have the 4 kids when you bought it?
I had it 4 kids. I thought if I get that house for, I offered them $12,000 and they took it. Unfortunately, I knew that the guy was being transferred to Africa and he was trying to unload it and nobody wanted it.
What year was that?
This is truly an 1890 house.
1890s, wow. Is it still there today?
Yeah, but the present owner, he had the whole thing gutted and practically rebuilt it. He probably put a new basement in. I hope he did. The first floor is all rebuilt in the second, where we were. He changed that. He still had probably a horse.
Now, how old were all the kids when you moved in?
Well, Kenny was in high school. Sharon was going into high school. Tommy would be in the grade school. And Chrissy, well, she would be in the grade school. And I thought it was a nice town, it was a good town. I liked the school system, I liked the town, the people, they were at home.
Did the kids like it?
Oh no, you were not gonna have that. Kenny, I moved from Bradford to Westfield, but actually Kenny stayed, his mind stayed in Cranford. Cranford was a good town, it's a nice town.
Why'd you move?
Well, I knew I needed a bigger house, and we had a 2-bedroom house, and they finished off the attic, so I could use it, and they had finished off the basement. That would be comfortable. They had a bar, and they had converted the coal furnace to oil. And it was in a nice neighborhood. And now prices fluctuate in real estate too. So I got this, now the guy across the street from me, who happened to be the mayor of the town, Coppersway, he paid $8,000 to have his house built. And his house was not as good as the house I bought for $4,000.
Wow.
$3,500. I bought it. And it's a nice deep lot. The lots were they're about 50 feet wide, 75 feet wide, about 200 feet deep.
Now they didn't have the kind of loans that they do today, right? They didn't have like a 30-year mortgage or
Oh, they were getting into that. You could get a 30-year. I've got a mortgage, probably 15 to 20-year loan. I don't like mortgages. That's the last thing I want to do is to carry a banker on my back. So the first thing I do is to pay that mortgage off. I got the house on South Union Avenue. I tell you, it's worth $8,000 or $10,000. I got it for about $4,000, and I paid that mortgage off in a few years, 2 or 3 years. The extra money I had, I have to get rid of the bankers. The bankers have you. After they lend you the money, they got you under their thing. When they're they know they're losing you, then they want you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I financed buying Clark Street, I said, well, if I can get that house for $12,000, Mr. Taylor, you can have it. I put a deposit. I knew it was worth 16.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Now, and I finally sold it when I went to Florida. The equivalent of, if it was sold through real estate, I'd be selling it for $60,000 in order to pay them off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, property values have since then, the houses I had, I could have bought. And Jane and I, we didn't have enough furniture to fill 3 rooms on the first floor. Mine, everything on the second floor, on the big property. That house probably gone for $200,000 or $300,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make property that people will multiply. As you can see how they do. Well, I'm getting off the subject.
Well, why don't you, what's this?
What is that? Tommy wanted a haircut, a Mohican. And the barber sent him home and get a note from his mother that they could do this. And Jane, which is a long way of saying it, fine, they only live once, she gave him a note. He had his hair cut off like this.
Did you like it?
Well, I didn't have a choice. Naturally, it's my son. I love him. I had to like everything. But this is Sharon, got cross-eyed. But you can't go through life cross-eyed. So we had to go to a doctor and have the muscle in one eye straightened. Short, I don't know how they do it, but it's short and like that. But you're straightening out, both eyes work. She's been fine ever since. So we had her, and naturally, with that's a reminder of when we had the cross eyes done. And this we had from we would have on our floor, we would have these are called banisters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the kid fell off a banister, he could break his arm. Well, my kids were on the banisters, holding on. And after all, I've been a father too. Instead of walking when I was in 249 West Fifth Avenue, instead of walking, I take the top of the stairs and I jump to the landing, turn around the landing, jump to the first floor. It was quicker.
So they were doing the same thing?
Huh?
They were doing the same thing, but sliding down?
And if they were going to do it that way, that's all right. That's good. Oh, this is in here. I used to be on business cycles. And I I was going to put a technical letter out on the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
A little voice in me told me twice, you're not to do that. So I took the contents of all my 30 years of study and put it in a garbage bag and filled it with water, a couple of garbage bags, and out to the dumps it went, so people would know what I'm working on. And I'm not going to tell you. The little
Can you give me a hint?
The little voice says, don't tell them that. Tell them what you did do. So what am I going to do? I had majored in banking and finance. I studied for years money market in the graduate school, Marcus and Adler's Money Marketeers. And this is what I did. They said, so therefore I tried to put something together of Jane's family and my family, and that's in here as much as I could gather that I thought was important. I gathered on both of them as much as I could, because you run into roadblocks. Like when I was tracing my grandmother, Grandpa was dead. You know, the first 40 years of your life, you're too busy. You finally get married and you have 4 children, they're going to keep you busy. And when they leave, then you start to look around and you ask questions. And this is where I found out that the names of towns in Pennsylvania were changed. Not only the change, but from that area, that whole northeastern Pennsylvania Connecticut gave up their rights to that. Really, it's part of Connecticut, but they gave up the rights and now it became Pennsylvania. And I going through the county records, I finally identified and saw the correction of the clerks where they corrected my grandfather's name was in there. I found that also, and I got tied up. And it took me several trips from Westfield to Wilkes-Barre to go through this. But when I went back the third time, they had a flooding Bennington, New York, and the waters of it came down. And it flooded 15 or 20 or 30 feet of water, which naturally overflowed into the courthouse and made all the records whole. So they dumped them out, and there's no records. I checked into churches where Grandpa, my grandfolks probably went to church to try to get the record, only to find out that this church, yes, it burned down in 1912 with all the records. Or I check in another, yes, they were, that burned down. I check in with the cemetery. The guy that was in charge of it, they weren't making much money. They had to live. And if you didn't have any income that way, he walked off and took all the records with him. So they don't know who was buried in Grandma's, or whether she had a child or not. This is things that you run into in the course of history. Now, in the business cycle, you try to buy these low peaks. This is 32 probably. Well, that's 32. And you would have peaks and troughs in these business cycles. And I used to know something about business cycles, so on the basis of what I knew, I have put in here, my comments are correct. My comments on the tops of the cycles and the troughs that I put in this book are accurate, regardless of what's printed text today. This has to do, now all these things you find that not only changes in prices, but production will go down. You might have industries here, and you have no industry here at all. It's all wiped out. You have changes from a canal economy in here where they thought in canals, and finally the railroads driving out the canals, and finally the day of the automobile coming in. Now you've got the highways being built and the trucks coming in, which are driving the railroads out to help the railroads go out. While all their tank car business disappeared to what? They could shoot it through a pipeline. Well, this is the way the country's developed, normal. Those are my comments. Now, you know, sales, production prices, it all ties in together. Oh, I thought our world was probably waking up. Our world is not waking up. Because
when did you draw that?
When did I draw that? Oh, probably 40 years ago.
So 40 years ago, you thought the world was waking up?
I thought there was a chance after World War II it would work out. But when I see what the Muslims are doing, and how one faction can be very militant, and another faction non-militant, the Sunnis is against the Shiites. And you can see how the Russians have been doing. Russians have usually smashed the countries that they have absorbed, like Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Georgia, Armenia. These were all countries in themselves. I thought the world was waking up. I don't think they're waking up because I think greedy people are going to be greedy people. And people that they can see they can take advantage of another, whether they're doing it via drugs in Ecuador, or Bolivia, or oil in Venezuela, or Mexico, or regardless of what it is. This is the way human nature is. I don't think human nature is going to change unless Christ comes back to change it. too early for that to happen. Because we will go through a wave of this. That's maybe a reason why I'm wearing that stuff there. We will have a wave of people becoming more. Am I talking too much, Jane? I didn't ask for that, he's asking me.
Jane, is he talking too much?
What?
Grandpa wants to know if he's talking too much.
I'm not even listening. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why I wrote this in here, and I don't think the world is waking up. They don't have that much discipline, either in the east or the west or the north or the south to do it. Oh, the reason I put this in here is because they would have motorcycles. I remember the first crop we had that was full of motorcycles. This is pretty good. And they used to have motorcycles. Speed limit used to be 35 miles an hour. We used to have, actually, you're going from country roads to roads that would have the main road in the town had a Chestnut Street.
How did they know if you were speeding? They didn't have radar guns then, did they?
No, I forget how they would. You take it for the word. If you got a ticket, you talk your way out of it.
They would just guess.
How would they know? We got motorcycles, and a motorcycle can come along and tell you you're speeding. A motorcycle will pass you and give you a ticket. Don't you tell me to shut up, Jim?
Yes, I will, thank you.
See, this is a day the automobile from.
What's this? I will, I won't.
Well,
What made you do that, and when did you do that?
most people don't realize they have willpower. Most people. You get a type of a person that,
You have two types of people?
yeah. You're one type of person who say, I will do it. Regardless of the obstacles, I will do it. Now, we live in an interesting time because actually we've seen the telephone come in, and in the 1930s, we saw radio come in, and radio was more fully developed in the early 30s. And at the end of the 30s, along with the electrical line, this is the electrical age, we not only saw electric come in, we saw TVs come in, we saw electricity develop, improve, modernize. We saw radar come in. We saw the what do you call this, laser. We saw this. I was in the olden days. They were trying to do something with combat the Germans. With coming in with the airplanes. They would have sound locators. These are big ears. They would be you would have three of them, and they would amplify. But sound is so much. Whereas when radar came in, and they substituted for the sound locators, they put in the radar, and they could instantaneously spot and figure the speed and calculate it and send it back through their computers and to their say guns and everything that they're going to shoot at, or airplanes are going to come back. They could know exactly where these boys are coming and could shoot them down. There's more to A friend of mine, Al Lieberg, thinks that actually America they shouldn't amplify how great Boston was and New England. What they should amplify is Roosevelt, New Jersey, how great that is. Why? Because of the development of Marconi. Marconi had in Roosevelt Park, he had all this development radio. And this is another picture of, when a guy's got a wife and 4 kids. And I have no father to fall back on, no family. You're it. So you've got to watch out for all the pitfalls that you see. And you have to do as you think, not necessarily as your wife. Your wife may, I want this new or that new. The old man, whoever's steering this wheel, has got to keep his eye on the road. Now, I thought it was important because that's going to be successful. Well, as I said, we grew up in a different world. We had a kitchen clock like this. Our sink was, this is a cast iron sink with porcelain cover. This is a Hoosier cabinet. We probably pretty fancy when we've got a Hoosier cabinet. Because on the one side would be a sifter for flour. On the other side would be a compartment for shop, and you'd have shelves in there. This was a steel covered with aluminum, with porcelain. The bottom was red. That's a Hoosier cabinet. And I put this in. We had, our stove was like this, but in the back of that you could drop it down. That actually you could steam cook. And that was a big advantage because I would have ants. I look at those, you go in the kitchen, they have a big cast iron stove that they would keep polished with black carbon polish to make it look nice and clean in the kitchen. This great big stove, coal burning stove, or wood, but if you live in a city, you're going to get more for your money on the heat by coal. But these were not unusual. This was modern. We had that was really modern. So was this modern.
And what years was that?
This probably came out about 1920s, early 20s, middle 20s.
What's this?
Oh, I said you make your own swing.
Swing.
Well, you do all kinds of things. The kids can do all kinds of things. And that's it. They wound it up. You can see it, how it worked. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't swing. We had roller skates. And the roller skates, they're clamp on. You got a key. You draw the end and fit your shoe. You didn't have to. And the back, the haywood here, and that will go over, pull the back in, and the front part would lock underneath. This would lock over your toe area, of your shoe.
Tell me a story about that one.
Oh, it was fun to walk a fence. We used to have a fellow off the street. He had chickens. He usually had fences to keep people out. Well, we not only kept them out, we got up and walked the fences. Nobody would tell you no, or you can't, or anything. This is entirely up to you. I will or I won't. We did.
Didn't somebody Didn't you tell me someone's pants got stuck on it? Or is there? Didn't someone's pants get stuck on the fence?
Oh, that's another one.
That's another picture?
I didn't put that picture in there. A picture, the Uncle Eddie, after he retired from the tile business, he wasn't making any money and he couldn't compete with people. He wanted all his, everything he wanted, or I'm not going to play their way. Well, long story of it is that the Italian people took the tile business away from them because it would underprice them. He just charged too much. And he was, after he retired, they look around to see if he can get a job. He finally got a job in a cemetery in East Orange. And somebody came out and locked the cemetery. Well, he had to climb over the fence, and dropping down on the other side, these were steel spikes. He caught on his pants. And he had to wait there until somebody come along and freed him. That's what you were from. We had a baby grand piano. That's a baby grand. And we used to sing. And all families would have pianos with children. You teach the children. If they didn't teach them, they taught themselves. This is the type of society we came from. If you give me an opportunity, I'll teach myself. My Aunt Mabel, mother, and both Aunt Mabel, they were both self-taught. We had a lot of fun singing. This is another one. Oh, if milk used to come, first we'd get our milk loose. And they passed state laws that you had to put it in bottles and pasteurize it. And when you put it in bottles, when it got cold, what's what happened? That would freeze up and that top was all cream. Skip rope.
What's that one? Oh, somebody skipping rope.
These are just toys, ABC thing.
Just toys when you were growing up.
I told you, didn't I? We came through an automobile age, and the automobiles are the type of automobiles from which our big companies came. Ford, General Motors, and others came from what? Well, we used to have an electric car, which had no motor on it. It was the batteries, and it was like a coach that ran on electricity. We only had one of those in the town. But the other cars would be Saxons and Moons and Fords, Maxwells, Studebakers, Stutz. Elsewhere, I mentioned a lot of other names in here. The automobile companies have since disappeared into General Motors, or Ford disappeared into Ford. This here is.
What's that?
Oh, that's just a dog.
Mm.
That's a block. That's a ball. Kid stuff. The Ten Commandments, regardless of what you do, people still think the Ten Commandments are supposed to be broken. They're not, really. They should be kept. Again, I didn't. This is just light, and that's a sled. That's the type of sled. It might be old wood. The later sleds came out with like a metal runner on both sides. We make stilts by having two stove poles and putting blocks in there, so there would be stilts. that would raise you about 3 foot up. You could learn how to handle it. That's a cat o' nine tails. This is wood, and that's leather, and that's split. I never had it used on me that I remember.
Because you were such a good kid?
No, they couldn't catch me. But they don't, let's not bear down like they made a mistake. Yes, I used to do this in a crabapple tree. And this is sled. We used to have a lot of fun sledding. Oh, this is Dad.
That's your dad?
Well, Dad was old hat, but he's not much better looking than this guy. That's a poor picture of him, but we had 30 kegs.
30 kegs?
30 kegs. We did made wine as a hobby. This is a press, and we had a crusher in here where you turn that before this. You would crush it up. You put it in the press, and you'd make your wine.
Now, do you remember Prohibition? When
Oh yeah.
was your dad a bootlegger?
No. We like Jane's father, would make wine just because you couldn't make it. You say you can't do a thing, you're going to do it. Don't tell people they can't do it. Show them the head of it. We used to have horseshoes. It's the same as quoits today. Dad carried a pail like this. The coffee would be up in here, and his dinner pail would be in here. And this is the day before railroads were electrified. But they used to have these lanterns on the ends of railroad. Oh, this is in regards to a railroad station with a railroad freight wagon. People chew tobacco. They don't chew it now, it's not popular.
Some people do.
I suppose so. And shoes, this is a Liberty Bell for freedom. And shoes were more substantial. Dad made me a pair of shoes.
You made your shoes?
And those damn things were cloudhoppers. They're made out of cow nuts. He cut the thing. I saw him cut it and watched it. He would have yeah, here's the other one. Stubbs Moon, Saxon, Maxwell, Peerless, Franklin, Pearsall, Flitter, Packer, Stanley, Stanley. Where is it?
What's that one?
Well, we had coal.
Oh, that's right, the sifting
You
coal.
take it outside and you have to sift it. It's a dirty job.
Oh, your chores.
But we had to do it. Just the same as you have to do kerosene lamps, is you have to clean. You have to trim the wicks and put it down. The ashes would go on the pail. Cow flops. Well, your cow flops, this is dirty. I want to look at something.
Is that a tank? No. What's that?
Clang, clang. Well, the trolley cars would have,
Oh, trolley.
they would make noise with them. The buses didn't come in until these were really going out. They decided they could run cars without tracks. So they did it. And then the buses came in because the buses. I started looking something else. there's another picture. I can't find it because we're going through in sequence. Oh, this is made of cast iron. This you pull up out of that, and this is when you're making shoes, you put that over here, and you put that in, and this is maybe you can build your shoe up, and as you build your shoe up, and you're tacking the sole on, because you tack it and you sew it, it means that you have to take an awl, A-W, awl, an awl, to make a hole through it, and then you would take your fine linen coated like sewing thread, and you feed it through the whole way all, and you pull it out the other side on up. You make a hole for each one of these things that you're doing. This is the way you make your shoes, to put the soles on to sew them.
Let's flip through these.
What? This is the
Oh, that's where you kept going.
coal bin used to be delivered. This you get 2 or 3 tons of coal. They'd carry the bag and they empty the chute. The chute would go in the summer, come in here and fill up. You got maybe 3 or 4 tons to go, maybe 5 tons. This is what I showed the ash shipper. In those days, when kids, we would take our rugs out twice a year, and you'd beat them and clean them. You've got 15 minutes left.
I think the tape has about 15 minutes on it.
And this is ice skates. We've covered that. We've covered all the way we used to have the sidewalk snowplow. These are really impractical, except they work. They have these things. And you would try to clean a walk until, I don't know when they went out, but there was kind of but this is the way it was in the 20s. Yeah. And this is in Seashore. We didn't have bikinis in those days. They would have the women would have a hat and a full dress on to go swimming. And the men would have long pants that go over their knees. And like a sweater vest to go over their hands. And this is down at the seashore. I can get better pictures of them. This is our backyard, the chicken coop. You know, we have 2 types of birds. The general purpose, we will try to get a general purpose bird. The leghorn, the white leghorn is very a leg-layering machine. But you get a general purpose, like a Plymouth Rock or Rhode Island Red. These give you a nice meaty bird, and at the same time they give you good eggs. But the egg factory would be the white leghorn. We always had cats. Oh, this is with dirt pack. When the time of plenty, you made jellies, jams, conserved. You preserved and cooked, and made apple sauce and canned peaches, canned pears. You'd can things. Well, the way they would take care of this, we would get a wooden box and put a layer of dirt down. And on top of the layer of dirt, you put a layer of carrots. You put a layer of dirt, and on top of that, you put a layer of beef. On top of that, you put another layer of carrots. And then another layer of dirt and a layer of beef. That's the way you dry pack that. Then we had, as far as eggs go, you know, every season, when the season's in, you're going to take advantage of it. Just the same as when you got a lot of eggs, you put the eggs in water glass. you'd have dozens of eggs in the water glass. You could use them. You could use them for the next 6 months. That's boxes. And you put a hunk of ice, that's a 50-cent piece, you put that in your ice box. Well, that means you have to empty the water twice a day, in the morning and at night. It's just part of, and in those days, Mom, this is a form, this is a button, because you have buttons, and this is a form for mother for dresses. And we used to have, before electricity, you had flat iron. You'd heat these on the stove, the cold stove. You'd heat those up. And then singing, we all loved singing.
I can't sing.
And that makes you think of, places would have choirs. The Episcopal Church had choir, and they used to pay, 15 cents or something like that, if you sang in the choirs as well. And so consequently, all the fellows on there, regardless of whether they're going to the Methodist Church or the Baptist Church or the Presbyterian Church, they would sing in the Episcopal Church too. Well, they're rather rough on the knees because I fainted once. And I tried another thing too. They kicked me out of choir once, and this is when I learned obedience.
How did you faint?
I wasn't used to kneeling down, singing for a whole communion service on what's the Palm Sunday. I wasn't used to doing that. I'm a Presbyterian. We went first to the Baptist Church, but when we moved up to Fifth Avenue.
I thought your family, or is Grandma's family Quaker? No one's Quaker?
I joined the Quaker.
You joined the Quaker.
I transferred my membership from the Presbyterian Church to the Quaker meeting because I believed in the Quaker. And I think my father would have approved of that too. But if she had questions, she asked our minister about that. He said the Quakers are good people. I didn't want me to stop. Sitting actually, all our lanterns, we used to, I told you, we had a lantern like this in the attic, we'd pull up there. After electricity, we got electricity.
Do you remember when you first got electricity?
Well, yes, you would not have one line. We have one line going and one line coming. It's a 2 line. And we got, that's the way it was in the 20s. But when we got in the others with the lamps, that's the electricity that just came in during World War II, probably. Because our house was a modern house. We had everything. We had electricity in there. One line going, one line coming. One hot and one cold.
Mm-hmm. What's the muscle for?
Because if you didn't have muscle, this is the way this country was made. When you lay tracks, you're going to use muscle. When you build automobiles, you're going to use muscle. This in here, you take that lamp, it will be over the living room table. You push that up out of the way. You shorten it up to here. Well, this is a counterweight up in here. That counterweight would come down and set over like here. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough? Here's a trolley car.
Oh yeah, we did this one.
An outhouse. You probably got that too.
I didn't get this one. This is
well, the way I was introduced to fishing You didn't go out to the river or the lake or anything. When I was brought up, we had ponds. And ponds where you'd have catfish. And we'd go out with a friend of mine, and we would catfishing for the fun of it. And get home and Mom would cook it. Don't ask me what it tasted like. I don't know. This is a camp. Now this is the way the camp would be here. Now, this is wood. That is wood structure. This is a tent. A tent under a tent. That's a tent under a tent. That's for company, and that is for, well, Roberta probably stepped in there. And this was open. This is the way it was, the campsite. And this is a cove down in the lake. That was lovely. This is the cove coming in. This is all wood. This is my catch. I couldn't find any bait. Well, you were taught to be ingenious. You don't go out and buy it. Hell. Go out and I caught a boat car. It took me probably 20 or 30 minutes to find one. And you take it, and you hook them under the mouth and the back. And I threw them off the back. And I described what happened. I got a 5-pound bass. That's a nice bass. We mounted on the wall, sketched the size of it, and the weight in the pound. Oh, I told you, the Ten Commandments are good. It's necessary to keep them. You shouldn't remember that.
What's that one?
You shouldn't keep your light under a bushel. No, you shouldn't keep your light on. You put the light on top of the bushel. This is the way the coals are. We used to have closed coals. This is wash day. That's Monday. That's water. I'm coming into the present day. Old days. That's carving. I just told that. I already covered it. That one. Now, you want me to get you one of these and give it to you?
Yeah, I'd like a copy of one of those.
I'll see if I can.
Oh, I'll take this. Thanks. Grandma's giving me a Coke.
Let me get. I think.
Hold on, let me check the
I
tape.
can give you this.
Well, thanks for going over all that.
That's gone over this book. Now to this book, I've added a piece.
Yeah,
I couldn't make a copy of this. Casey in his trance state was asked the reason for his unusual psychic talent. The answer which came back offers promise to the rest of us. Only is a gift from him who has given. If you keep my ways, I will love thee, will abide by thee, and bring to thy remembrance all things from the foundation of the world. That's how he got this, his reading. That if you see, now I'm going to give you a copy of this because I think
Now, sir, do you have one?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't give you a copy of this because I think I only have one copy. And I want to keep the whole. I can give you copies of that. I can't give you a copy of this.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing all that with me.
But I think I'll see how much I can give you of that.
You're very comfortable on the camera, Grandpa. You're natural.
Yeah.
Thank you. Years of practice. Are we ready to eat?
Honey, put mine out here. Don't disturb the. Put it out there. I'm going to get something for Adam.